All right, everybody. It is Friday, and you know what that means. It is time for more fear. I am your co host, Kenton J. Moore. Once more, sans Jason Hewlett. Unfortunately, he is busy, but he is just getting ready to launch a super cool new documentary about Sasquatch that features yours truly. So check that out at Small Town Monsters on YouTube. The documentary title is called Sasquatch Legacy. So, in deciding whether I was going to do this second solo episode before we take a hiatus for the holidays, I reached out to a very good friend of mine who's a fan of our podcast. And I asked her what she thought I should do as a topic. I had a couple ideas. Of course, we have a schedule, but being that it was solo and some of these things I really wanted Jason's input on, I was like, what should we do? Should we do something different? And she gave me the suggestion for today's topic. But before we get started, I just want to give her a very special shout out. Adele Lusk, happy birthday. I hope you have a fantastic day. I wish I could have been there to do something super fun for you, but as I understand, others did. And I hope you feel the love and enjoy your special day. So happy birthday, Adele Lusk, and thank you for tonight's topic. So, what are we going to be talking about tonight? Well, the snow fell the other day here, and we've got Christmas lights up. There's Mariah Carey invading our radios and our workplaces. There's lights everywhere. It's coming to that time of the year where the holidays are upon us. So we decided that we would talk about Heortophobia. Now, what is Heortophobia? That's a really weird sounding word, but how do you spell it? It's Heortophobia. Heortophobia. And what that is the severe and irrational fear of the holidays. Shocking, right? Because, you'd think, well, why would anybody really be afraid of the holidays? Christmas is so magical. The lights and the gifts and the family and the food and the snacks and the happiness. But did you ever think for a minute that that is exactly why somebody would be severely anxious around this time of year? The more I dug into this phobia, the more interesting it became, because Heortophobia, as an umbrella term, does not appear in the DSM-5 manual, but it is listed as a specific phobia under social anxiety phobias, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. The most popular, or the most not popular, I shouldn't say that, the most common form of holiday phobia related to Heortophobia is actually Samhainophobia, which some of you might recognize that term, Samhain. The Samhainophobia is fear of Halloween, which makes sense. But did you know that there's actually a phobia named for the fear of Christmas, specifically Christmas? It's called Christougenniatikophobia. Let me see if I can say that one more time, because I took a lot of practicing to say this properly. Christougenniatikophobia. Christougenniatikophobia. That is the fear of Christmas. It is one of the subset phobias under Heortophobia. Like other social anxiety or specific phobias and stuff, it is indicated by a severe anxiety, intense anxiety that could come on approaching the holidays, that might lead to avoidance behavior of social events. You might lead to avoidance behavior of decorations, the culture, or even just discussions, period, of Christmas or Christmas-related things. So in that sense, anybody with this phobia might tune this podcast out, because they might be like, nope, don't even want to think about it. Don't want to do it. Nothing to do with it, right? Having this phobia could interfere with work, social life, and obviously well-being. this time of year when, so many people are down that rabbit hole and jumping into the culture and the capitalism of the holidays, you might feel completely isolated because you feel like you don't belong. You feel like you're not welcome. You could have rapid heartbeat, sweating, nausea. You could experience psyche symptoms like a feeling of an impending doom the closer we get to the holidays. And you might have an inability to concentrate. And if you have all of those things, it's a good chance that you have Christougenniatikophobia. See how I keep saying that so I could learn it? Again, not to laugh about these kind of things because, this specific phobia was interesting to me, digging into it because, I come from a family that sort of idolized Christmas as a kid growing up. My mom's one of those people that, the day after Remembrance Day, she's starting to put lights up. She wants to have these uh, plywood cutout, life size Santa Claus and his reindeer with LED rope lights surrounding the entire thing, lit by halogen lights that are put up along the fence in our property facing the highway. Now, it tends to be a pretty popular thing. Every year we get a lot of compliments about it because, you look up the mountainside when you're driving the highway in the dark and there's Santa and his reindeer flying through the blackness. A lot of people like that. Every once in a while we might get a honk or two from a semi truck going by. But, like mom loved that kind of stuff. When I was a kid, we were growing up in this trailer and they used to go so far as actually waiting for my brother and I to fall asleep and then climbing on the roof of our mobile home with a pair of skis to leave fake footprints and tracks so that when we got up the next morning, we would absolutely be certain that Santa had visited. Now, that's kind of cool because we grew up with that magic of Christmas. I mean, my grandmother was Ukrainian Orthodox, so we had that Christian sort of upbringing. Not that we ever went to church or anything, because my grandma sort of had that, what do you call it, stigmata-ish type belief where, she used to tell us that if God meant for us to worship him in houses we built up with our own two hands, he wouldn't have given us the sunrise and the beautiful landscapes. But we still had that belief. But for us, Christmas wasn't about the birth of Christ or any of the religious type stuff. It was about family. It was about magic. We spent time together going tobogganing. We had bonfires in the snow. We would wake up in the morning, do our stockings. We would open our stockings first. We would have a breakfast together. We would sit in front of the tree and open gifts, but then we would immediately pile into the car and go to my grandma's house where all my uncles and aunts and cousins would shortly arrive thereafter. We would have another breakfast. We would open more gifts. We would spend the day tobogganing and playing with our cousins while my grandparents and my mom usually made a great big dinner. Then the whole family would get back together again on this big giant table and we would eat until we could barely move. And that was like our thing, right? That was, it was like a family tradition for us. Of course, we grew up, right? My uncles sold their properties. They moved off. My cousins graduated high school, moved off. My brother moved off. I joined the Navy, and I think I went farther away than anybody did, really, when you think about it. But, my mom never lost that desire to have that kind of Christmas. So it was a really hard one for me to understand the phobia and the fear of, because to me, that's what Christmas was. But looking back on it now as an adult, as a parent, as a father myself, boy, can I ever understand a lot of the different fears that are associated with the fear of Christmas, like the different phobias that are subsets of Christougenni. See, there we go. Christougenniatikophobia. There's a whole bunch of subsets of it. There's Santaphobia, which is literally a fear of Santa Claus. That's the thing that you'll see sometimes where a kid screams on the lap of Santa and then just never really gets over it. They see them as sort of a traumatizing figure. There's Duronophobia, which is something I can completely understand. And that's the fear of gift giving and gift receiving. I don't know how many times I was petrified of my kids coming to visit me when they were growing up because I had no money. I couldn't afford nice presents. I knew that they were going to be getting all these great things under the trees at their mom's houses. But when they came to mine, they'd have one or two things, a good breakfast. Maybe we'd play some videos games together and then they would go home. So I can get that. There's a whole host of social anxieties that occur, you know, being around crowds when you have to go shopping. I know myself, I hate shopping during the holidays. Anytime between now and probably the first or second week of January, I will avoid Costco. I will avoid Walmart. I will avoid anything that I can that I need to do any kind of shopping in. I'll just bare necessities or I'll order it on Amazon, right? There's also salophobia, which I thought was kind of interesting too. Salophobia is the fear of blinking lights. So, somebody could be having a phobic reaction to all the Christmas lights. And let's face it, that stuff is in your face. It's everywhere you go. Like we just watched on the local news the other day when they lit the giant Christmas tree at Uptown Shopping Mall in Victoria, BC. Even though we live in Kamloops, my parents really like to watch the Victoria news. They find it more interesting. So, those kind of things are bright. It's everywhere. It's in your face. And you think about like the obligations that you have, the financial stress, the forced proximity to unwanted relationships. There's one that I thought was really interesting. How many people have a family member they can't stand? Somebody that drinks a little bit too much, someone that's a little too rowdy, someone that always has to create some sort of drama that ruins it for everybody else. I mean, all of these kind of things pile onto you. And yeah, man, the holidays are not easy for a lot of people. For quite a few of us, it's fun and we enjoy it. But for so many people, no, and like you get this pop culture overload too. Like every time you turn on local television stations, it's a Hallmark movie, and they all have the same plot. Don't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about. you know, like, girl goes off to the city, has a big fancy job, goes back home for Christmas, meets high school love. It's so repetitive, but it's everywhere. And then you're getting all of these new things now with like Santa as a hitman, Santa as a big jacked up wiener that has The Rock as his bodyguard. Like it just goes on and on and on. It's a pop culture cash cow that has been milked to absolute death. And if you talk to some people, it is symbolic of how our capitalist nature in the West tends to erode the magic of what these events were intended to be, originally speaking. Like going back to my own experiences about Christmas being about family and fun and food. That's the Ukrainian Italian with us. Yes, we did have presents. Yes, we did have stockings under the tree. But the kind of thing we used to get was like comic books, socks, got a lot of socks, underwear, deodorant, toothpaste, new toothbrushes, things that we needed. We would get those kind of things all the time. There might be a Hot Wheels, maybe a Lego kit if my mom could afford it. Sometimes we were lucky enough to get a new Nintendo 64 game. Didn't matter, but it wasn't about the gifts. It was never about the gifts. It was about the family. It was about the food. It was about presents, not presents with TS, presents with CE, right? And, like it's funny how going to this statement about how capitalism sort of eroding the magic of Christmas or what the holidays are supposed to be all about. Even nowadays, you get chastised quite a bit for even saying the word Christmas. It's more, I know I do all the time. I just default to saying Merry Christmas to people when I see them in stores. And I get that, the look of death, how dare you? It's supposed to be happy holidays. That's fine. That's whatever. I'm not judging anybody. Doesn't matter what culture you're from. I mean, where I'm coming from is my own personal experience. And when you think about like the whole capitalism eroding the magic of Christmas, That is something even that is rammed down our throat over and over and over by all of these movies like, Scrooge. There's this pressure that we're always missing the point, right? So it doesn't seem to matter what we do. If we enjoy Christmas or we don't enjoy Christmas, you're wrong no matter what. There's always going to be somebody who sees things that way. You know, if you're this pressure of missing the point, being a Scrooge, not having the energy to go to social gatherings and stuff, not having the financial resources to attend extravagant social gatherings or workplace parties. How many companies out there no longer even do Christmas parties anymore because their bottom line can't sustain it? I mean, I know a lot of them. The company that I work for still does a pretty fancy one, but you pay for it. You have a pretty significant ticket cost, which could stress a lot of people out, especially people that are tight. In my own personal situation, I'm single, right? So I haven't gone to a Christmas party at my employer ever because I just feel uncomfortable doing so. Does that make me a Scrooge? Is there pressure now to conform to the Christmas magic? So, of course, people could be afraid of that. How could you not? It's such a stressful time of year for a multitude of reasons. And, like I hate to say it, but social media, advertising, television, it rams it down your throat that no matter what, you got to do more. You got to have bigger things for your family. You got to have a turkey. You got to have mashed potatoes. If you're not using bacon in your Brussels sprouts, it's the wrong way to do things, And it just, the list goes on and on and on, right? Buy the newest PlayStation game, buy the, most expensive pair of digital glasses, that show you AI and all this stuff. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. It's a marketing machine, and it's stressful. It's stressful for people. And again, with my own experiences, money, time, energy, like these are things that are in short supply for me on a normal day. And when it comes to the holidays, there's so much demand that you really have to stop and learn to say no. You have to take stock of what you're capable of doing, and you need to set clear boundaries with yourself and with the people that you care about. If you need the time, take the time, and if somebody's going to pressure you and they're going to call you a Grinch or a humbug or a Scrooge because of this or that or that or the other thing, don't wear that. Don't take that into yourself. That's their problem, not yours. It's the truth. Like, I'm sorry, but we're not all the same. Everybody has a different situation. And if you're one of these people that suffers this phobia, I'm sorry that I didn't know about it sooner. That I'm sorry that it took me this long in my life to understand that a phobia of Christmas is even a thing. And I hope those of you out there are listening to this podcast might start to understand a little bit more and show a little bit more sympathy to people who have to suffer this kind of thing. And I think that maybe if we just kind of did a little less, a little less of the ridiculous shopping, a little less of the Black Friday sales and the Cyber Mondays and the Boxing Week, which used to be just a day, for Christ's sakes. Pardon my curse, but send a letter, a handwritten letter to somebody you care about, just to tell them that you're thinking about them and why you are, right? Make a post on Facebook on Christmas or something, on social media, even a video of yourself thanking the troops that are deployed overseas and can't be with their families. Buy a bunch of stuff that is easy to make sandwiches and juice boxes or whatever, and walk around and hand them out to the homeless or people that are in, need or whatever. Volunteer time with a food bank, donate, right? That, I think, will bring you much, much, much more joy than so much of the capitalist jargon that's driven down our throats. And again, like, here you go. I'm starting to sound like a Hallmark movie myself. I'm starting to make demands of you, just like the holidays do. It's hard not to. And it's not even that I'm making demands. It's more like just a suggestion, like something for you to think about, as we go into this holiday season. Think about the fact that you might enjoy Christmas. You might look forward to it. You might love the giant meal that you're about to eat or all the presents that you're putting under the tree for your kids. But consider for a minute that there are people out there that hate it. There are people out there that feel absolute insufferable terror when they even think about this time of year. Consider your neighbor and not just yourself. And that, my friends, is pretty much where I'm going to leave it today, because I don't want to start getting all preachy. But yeah, just, you know, we'll be taking a break over Christmas. We'll be back in the new year. Either myself with more fears solo, or if Jason can find some time, we'll be sitting down. I'm pretty sure we'll be coming back at you. We've got a pretty interesting list of things to come up. Going to be talking about entomophobia, which is like the fear of insects. Yeah, I know we talked about arachnophobia, but this will be more like parasitic stuff like bot flies and things. Be an interesting angle for me to explore because I'm a beekeeper. We'll be talking about fear of curses, fear of witchcraft. There'll be lots to talk about. There's still a whole lot of cool stuff for us to go through. And in the meantime, comment below please share, engage with us, comment on this podcast. Tell me what you love or don't love about Christmas. Tell me your story. Tell me how you feel about the holidays, right? And we will see you all in 2026. So until then, fellow listeners, thank you for our support in 2025. You've made our first year of the Echoes of Fear absolutely awesome. You're the reason we do this. So happy holidays. Be safe. Talk to you next year.